funny story there is when I moved to New York, I actually had no idea how much money it took to get an apartment in this city. And so I came here with like I came here with like $1,000. I was like,
oh my God.
like,
won't even get you close
got
to
me
an apartment.
nothing.
I didn't know what you were gonna say there.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, I showed up like one suitcase and like $1,000 because and the funny story behind, do you know how I got that $1,000?
Yeah,
I sold my car. At that point, the car that I was driving in college was only worth $1,000.
How long were you dating before you actually got married?
So we were dating for 3 years before we got married.
Oh snap!
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. I guess 3 years until we got engaged, and then 1 year of engagement, and then we got married.
How'd you know when it was like time? What was the? You know what I mean? Like,
Wow. Okay. I came prepared to talk about money, but yeah, let's dive into our relationship. I love this. This is amazing. So, I knew it was time when, I mean, candidly, a couple of years ago when I was much younger, like 13, 14, my brother passed. And so, yeah. And so I guess there was a lot of like emotional stuff that I was still like dealing with that. And, I don't know, we just had this really like nice moment where one, foggy morning, we actually drove to where he was buried. He was in the Air Force. And so it was a Georgia National Cemetery. And we just had this really like sweet moment where, I broke down because I don't go there often, right? I live in New York full time. And she just, the way she like saw me in that moment and like accepted me and like, made me feel like normal and like okay, like that. That's when I knew. I know it's like really sweet. Like I didn't expect to talk about it. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But yeah, that was what I knew.
And you knew her for how long at that point in time already?
I've known her in total for 7 years.
Oh, so you've known her since like
yeah, we were friends first, and I think that's a big part of like what makes our relationship work. So we can joke, we like similar TV shows. We have some of the same hobbies, but we're different enough where it's not like weird,
Yeah.
But yeah. It's good.
Oh, I love hearing that.
That's a funny thing, like being friends with someone that at some point in time you're like, I'm attracted to you.
Yeah. Oh, I knew pretty early.
I feel like you always know. It's when you want to make the move.
Yeah, exactly. We had to get the timing right,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what I've been saying, Mike.
Oh, yeah. She's big on timing, manifestation.
Yes.
I'm big on manifestation too, but sometimes you can manifest something negative.
That's very true. Yes.
It's true, but you don't know if it's negative because you want it.
Yes. One thing I've been saying a lot is, everything, it all makes sense in retrospect, and it's easier to connect the dots looking backwards.
Yeah. I also always say everything happens for a reason. And it's so kind of corny, but like it does. And 100%. When you look back at it, you're like, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't feel this way.
Yeah. I like to think I have some choice in the things that do happen.
Choice.
You can only control what you can control, though,
Yeah, of course.
All that stuff. But Colin, I appreciate you hopping on the show. Is this your first time on a podcast before? You've been to
This is my first time on a filmed podcast, so I will know exactly as we're filming this exactly how good I am, because I've never been filmed professionally. I've hopped on a couple Zoom calls. People reach out to me right with their
really cool
4-episode podcast on Apple or whatever. But yeah, this is my first like production. I've got a serious setup here.
Nice.
I appreciate it. This is our Brooklyn kind of setup, but hopefully once we get some funding, we could get a little more.
Yeah. Very Brooklyn, but it's got personality. It's got taste.
Nice. 100%. And commuting all the way here from a little bit farther away, and just curious. I reached out to you outbound, which is funny because I have a ton of respect for the SDRs in my company that just go outbound and now is doing the job. But
absolutely.
What really attracted you to even consider coming onto a show called Eat My Assets? Like, what was your first reaction to that?
I mean, when I got your email and I saw the domain, I immediately I was laughing out loud. Like I got it at work and I was like, it was like amazing, right? But no, I think the vibe and the general mission here, like to take it serious, is like uncovering the truth about finances and money and transparency is super, super important. Because I didn't have any of that transparency growing up, especially with what I wanted to do in my career, right? Like when I was 18, I didn't even know that the job that I ended up having after high school would exist. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, because my mom was a school teacher, my dad was like a plumber, and he our family, I would say, had very little, I would say, financial literacy. Like we actually had money in the mattress. Like it was like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So growing up, teaching myself everything about personal finance, about corporate finance, I was on Investopedia all the time, right? Just Googling stuff, right?
That's crazy.
So I think, y'all are out here educating people on money, and I love that mission.
Trying to at least. But curious, a couple of things that you mentioned there, even with your parents growing up. This might be a weird question, but like, as a kid, did your parents ever talk to you about money growing up?
Only to tell me we had none. Like literally nothing, because as a family, and again, I'm not aware of everything, but like I know like we didn't save that much, we didn't invest that much. It was never like a conversation at the dinner table, right? Mm-hmm. Like money was just something that we could not get enough of, and that's all I knew about it for most of my life.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So going to college, was that something? Did you have student debt coming out of college, or what was the deal with that?
100%. Yeah. I had some student debt, which again, like it's a good debt because it allowed me to obviously start the career that I have now, right? Yeah. So I don't regret that. But I think but again, even that was like a lesson, right? Because I think I may piss some people off, that watch this. But like I'm sort of anti like Dave Ramsey, like you should get all your debt to like zero, right? I think some debt is worth taking on, especially if you are entrepreneurial and you want to start like a startup and you need to bootstrap, or even when you take on money, right? Like that is debt in a sense. And so I think you need to play smart games with leverage and pursue opportunities that you can, make a good return on, right?
I completely agree with you, because how else would you be in that opportunity if you didn't have, like, is someone just going to come out of nowhere and just donate you money and try to jumpstart your career? You're going to have to
not likely.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. But even with, you just mentioned it too, that you didn't even know what kind of job you're getting after college. So you kind of just assumed though that the higher education route was just going to help out.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say there was that much thought put into it. You know what I mean? I was like, it was very much trial and error, with like curiosity and imagination playing a really big part of it. Yeah. When I was first at the University of Georgia, I'd snuck my way into this upperclassmen networking event by lying and saying I was a part of a college that I was not yet admitted into. And there, there was some alum there, and he was dressed like super smartly, and he was like, holding his drink and speaking super like professionally, and he was just like holding court, right? And the more I learned about what he did, he said he flew around the country for free. He told businesses what to do, and he didn't have to know how to like code computers, right? So I was like, that's the dream.
Consultant?
Yes, consultant, exactly.
Like, it smells like consultant.
No, it's 100%, but I didn't even recognize the scent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
I wouldn't either, actually.
Exactly. And so, a couple deep dive Google and YouTube, rabbit holes later, and I learned enough to start going for internships and going for full-time roles. But when I went into college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I had to do something different than what I had been exposed to at that point in my household, because I wanted a different outcome, right?
Yeah. I love how that memory sticks with you, because I'm pretty sure I told you this, Ron's, before, but when I got out of college, I graduated a year early, and I tried my hand in like a full service agency.
Oh, wow.
In the blockchain industry. So we were working on like, you need web development, we'll do it. You need video content, we'll do it. And there's just like a ragtag team of 4 of us. But I remember when I first walked in the room of, we were trying to sell our services for like $12K a month, right? None of us have ever seen a contract that big or have asked for that much money. Yeah. And immediately when I walk in the room, I see this kind of Brooklyn looking guy with like 10 rings on.
Yeah. Is that what inspired your rings?
Yeah. Right. Everyone's wearing suits, but this guy is the CMO of this company.
Sick.
Okay.
10 rings on, like really dope clothes. And he just like commanded the room immediately when I walked in, and he was no bullshit.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's what I want to be.
Yeah. You could be at a high level, but you could still be
those moments
in your
are
own ways.
Those moments are important. Yeah. That's cool.
And that still sticks with me to this day. But I want to get into it too, because I did some research on what you're doing now, and I thought it was really interesting.
Okay. That question always scares me. But
No, I thought it was super cool, and maybe we could start there, actually, letting the crowd know a little bit about like what you do, and then how much you make there.
Yeah. So my current role now is I'm a technology talent agent. And so essentially what that is I joined a small startup late last year, and they're really trying to reinvent the talent model for technology. And so what we've done is we've taken the Hollywood talent agent talent relationship. And so if you've seen Ari Gold on Entourage, or if you've seen like Jerry Maguire, like we're literally doing that for people in tech. So if you're a product manager, if you're a software engineer, if you're a designer, you can sign on with us, and I will literally be your talent agent. So I'm finding opportunities for you. I'm helping you negotiate compensation.
Are you Ari Gold?
Is what you're saying? I am Ari Gold.
He's Ari Gold.
Not just just different coasts.
Do you know events?
Events.
Events.
Do you have events?
Oh,
like
do
a
I have
superstar?
events? Got a couple superstars, I will say.
In the
this
tech
market.
world, right? You're saying
Yeah.
it's
If you're listen, man, if you're a product manager with some AI experience, if you're a software engineer,
Oh
machine
my God,
learning
our
engineer,
friend
yeah,
works
so,
at a AI company and it's a product manager.
yeah.
Do
so,
we? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
That's the way you explain. I read
Yeah.
the website, but the way you explain it's way better. They should put you on.
Wait,
Hey,
yeah.
I literally like I have to say this nonstop because if you imagine like for most of my career, I've had a very difficult time explaining what I do, right? Because when you tell people you're a consultant and they don't have that like understanding of the industry, it's like,
Yeah.
what the heck, right?
My cousin, that's how I knew. That's the only reason
yeah,
why. Yeah,
exactly. Especially if you're like 22, right? Like, what do you know? How do you consult, right? All that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the current gig.
That's
Yeah.
how much. How does that work? How much do you make of that company?
Yeah.
now?
So at that role, it's it's base, bonus, and equity, and so the base is about 100,000. The bonus can be it's variable. Obviously, when I place my clients, I get a share of whatever that salary is, and so that can range from 20 to 30,000 per year.
Oh wow, let's
and then
go.
the equity is around like 8 to 10 per year.
Is it
Wow.
by equity? Oh, so how does that equity work? You're getting 8 to 10K.
It's over 4 years. And
Is
so
it a
it's
public
vested.
traded company?
No, it's private.
Oh,
Yeah,
got you.
it's-
But it's
it's a
worth
startup.
the fair market value. You're saying.
Yeah, the value of those shares. Yeah, so we're a Series A, and so that Series
Oh
A
hell
was,
yeah!
and so the equity that I got is valued at the valuation we went to raise that money at.
Damn, that's awesome.
Oh.
So you just got? Did you join like beginning of Series A or like a really small company? I'm guessing.
Post Series A. So there are like
Post-Series A.
25 of us. Yeah,
Oh,
so
hell
we're young, we're scrappy. It's
Oh,
good.
that's the
yeah.
I love
best.
that.
Yeah, we're out there hustling.
And you're
yeah.
traveling around everywhere. You're about to be going to Vegas. You're talking. About
yeah.
You know what
yeah.
you're doing.
That's the side job. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's the side
Oh.
job.
that's the side gig. Yeah, so that's a brand deal. So
Oh no way.
Atlassian is, I'm sure you're well aware of, right? Makers of great celebrated tools like Jira and Confluence. Yeah. So I'm doing some content for them. So I'll be out there. They're doing a big conference in Vegas, and so they flew me out, and I have to make videos about project management boards and Trello and things like
Wow.
that. So yeah.
I think to set some background then for the rest of the audience, Colin over here, you can find him on TikTok.
So TikTok is at the real Rocker,
The Real
and then
Colin
the
Rocker.
Instagram is career colon.
Career
Oh,
Colin.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw
30K followers on Instagram, 70K followers on TikTok. And so that brand that you've been building, you mentioned you've been building that for a couple years.
Couple years, yeah. So it was a
Couple
funny
years.
story with I started on TikTok and I hated the app at first. So when my then my now wife then girlfriend, when she was showing it to me in 2020, I was like, this is ridiculous. There's just like kids on here, right? Like who would ever download this,
Like, why are
right?
people dancing to this?
Exactly. And eventually, out of sheer boredom, right? I'd already seen Tiger King, you know what I mean? Like I had nothing else to do, and I downloaded. I
This is like
downloaded
peak
this app.
2020.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Peak 2020. I downloaded the app and I was up until 2 a.m. just like watching, scrolling, right? Like
Yeah.
dopamine jacked, right? So I did that for a couple months and then I was like, okay, like let's start, what can we do, right?
Yeah.
And so I started posting videos of my life and, nobody cared. I started posting videos of my workouts. Nobody cared. Like general, like motivational, like you can do whatever you like.
You're
Nobody
trying
cared.
things out, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trying stuff out.
That's the best way to
Nothing
do it
worked.
because then you know
Yeah.
what audience you're gonna pick up.
100%. Yeah. And so, again, in hindsight, yes,
Yeah.
that all makes a lot of sense. But my very first like viral video, I would say, was just about me talking about like literally what I was doing at work that day,
Oh,
and
really?
people were like really interested in like how did you do this? How did you get started? We really like this. Like I want to see more, right? And so that's sort of how I found my niche, and I've sort of grown that platform from 2020 to now for to around 70K, and then like you said, on Instagram now as well.
Wow, that's wild. And that's
Yeah.
cool too, because that just shows trial and error
Mhm.
Yeah.
of getting to this point. But now pulling that back to like Vegas, you mentioned going there. So
Yeah.
talked about the main hustle, the side hustle. What's
Yeah.
what's the financials there? Like how does that work? How does the
Yeah.
sponsorships work? How'd you get that?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I'm blessed in some ways because I do very little outreach. It seems like brands are very good about finding me, and I'm not sure why. Like I've got my email in my I've got my email in my bio. Like they can like I'm very very reachable, so maybe
Yeah.
that's a big part of it. But on a yearly basis, it's about 40K right now.
Nice.
So
Wow.
that's
That's
decent.
awesome.
Yeah, anywhere from 3 to 4, per month, depending on how it goes, and that's majorly brand deals. And so these are sponsored posts on my channel. I also do, UGC, so videos I'm, tossing to a brand for them to use and whatever they want to use it for.
Oh, gotcha.
And then very recently, which is, I'm actually really liking these, is I've been able to do a couple public speaking opportunities as well.
Oh, nice.
And
I saw you were recently this past week. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a couple groups have reached out to me that, they may have an organization that they're serving people that are also young and in their careers. And so they bring me in as sort of the TikTok or the Gen Z. It's
I love
and I don't even, because like I identify as a millennial, like I really, really do. But when people want to connect with the Gen Z audience, that is my audience. I'm brought in, and I really like that, sort of lane. So.
I like that a lot.
It's funny that you mentioned because I'm the same age as you and identify more in the Gen Z audience. It's like, this is gonna sound.
You get to choose though, because you're 96. Was your birth year?
95 is
95.
For me, so I'm even
So you're technically a little bit more millennial.
I'm a what's the in between millennial and Gen Z? Do they call that
Zillennial?
Something? Yeah,
That's how I identify.
Yeah.
It says if you're in the era where people were Snapchatting a photo of you and a dick on
yeah,
the side,
exactly. Then to
their other friends in high school, then that's how you know you're the Zillennial.
Well, I think if you've used,
I forgot about that.
If you've used a floppy disk, I think like that is like, because I like in elementary school, I distinctly remember. Yeah, have you used floppy disks?
Now that you mention it, I've seen a floppy.
Like back in the day, you've seen one.
But what about you? Like, have you used a floppy disk before?
Mm-hmm.
I've turned in book reports on. You've used a floppy disk.
You've turned in book reports on
floppy
disks.
disk. Like I swear to God, yes, absolutely.
Crazy.
That for me is like the barometer, and you have to be careful when you pull the metal thing back. Like it's.
Oh wait,
wow.
am I thinking of the right thing?
It's a piece of plastic with a little metal clip.
Like a flash drive?
It's like a square. It's a giant square. Right? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
See, is what I'm talking about.
I thought you were just talking about a flash drive. For some reason, I didn't retain that you kept saying floppy disk. I heard flash drive.
This is the floppy disk, man. It's a square.
I don't think I know what that is.
It's a square piece of plastic, and it's got a little magnetic clip on top of it that stores the data. And it's it's old school. Look it up.
What's funny about that? And I'm not.
Just
real quick.
Sure.
Yeah. Wait, I gotta look up what this looks like. Hold on.
So what's funny about the floppy disk is it probably held like 8 megabytes.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
exactly.
that's horrible. Wow.
That's the border.
That's the border.
That makes me sad that she doesn't know too, actually.
But yeah, I mean, back to the brand deal stuff. Right now, for like a sponsored post on my page, that'll go anywhere from like $400 to $600, which is really how much I feel like charging. So which is really nice. And then in the past, I've had a couple retainers. This recession has made some of those evaporate, but that's like the nitty gritty numbers there. So yeah.
So when you make a brand deal and you decide on the money, do you also have to acknowledge that maybe the video won't get as many views? Or
it's a great question.
And so it is a good question, and I think my opinion on that is you are paying for my skill as a creator and my ability to speak to like combine like my audience and like your brand, right? And so you're paying for the asset, and then I always give brands the option, like if they want to exactly assets they can eat. I love a big juicy asset, right? But if they want to put paid spin behind that to increase the boosting, like that's fine. But again, a lot of these larger brand deals as well, like you lose sometimes some of the creative control, because depending on how many hands are in the kitchen, sometimes the video that you want to make isn't really like the one that ends up getting made, right? Yeah. And so I don't, I try to stay away from deals that are too much tied to the performance of the video, because sometimes, my creative ideas or the concepts I want to do, aren't, always done one-to-one. So
yeah. Have you said no to a couple of?
Oh yeah. All the time.
All the time.
I mean, I get weird stuff.
What's the weird? What's the weird ones?
I get weird stuff. So, a weird one that actually turned out to be really, really cool was L'Oreal. Actually.
Oh wow.
The big, cosmetics conglomerate, right? Because they actually own Kiehl's, and so when they first reached out to me, I was like, hey, like, I don't think I'm the right person for this, right? Like, my wife loves this foundation, but like, I don't think it's right. But then they said, well, you wouldn't want this Kiehl's stuff. And I'm like, oh, let's try that.
I actually do.
I'll take a moisturizer, like a shampoo. Why not? Right. And so that turned out to be a good one. But I get a lot of fly-by-night e-com, Alibaba companies from just like, you're not like the brand that I want to be promoting. Right.
Yeah.
It's mostly like a lot of like drop shipping companies that are like very like fly-by-night and things that are, extremely small.
And they're offering you like 300 to 600 too for.
We never even get to that point.
Oh, because you're just like, I'm not. It
Look
could
at
be a
the
scam
email.
too.
Yeah,
maybe.
the initial email was like, "Hey, we saw your content," and then some of them they don't even put my name in the template, so you literally see
So you know it's
name
just-
in brackets, like they don't even change it.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's or they say hi rocker and they don't put my first name.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, like you know what I mean.
You didn't
We don't
think-
even
yeah.
get to the negotiation on that point. So,
Yeah, I feel you on that. And the speaking gigs though, like that's just you don't even have to outreach. Do they actually just find you now?
Yeah,
nowadays?
so the public speaking gigs have been all word of mouth at this point, and so I did
really cool.
I did one for the New York chapter of the Project Management Institute, because a lot of my earlier videos that went really big were focused on project management, which is a lot of what I was doing at the time.
Gotcha.
And so I met a lot of people there that are connected with other organizations in the city, and so that's how I've sort of been able to grow that side of my business.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all really like done via like text, like people actually like know. So it's been
Well, that's
pretty
an interesting point too, because you mentioned you're 27 now. We were looking at past history, work history specifically. So it looked like you actually did do the consulting route for a little bit.
100%.
What was that like? Like, how much were you making, and how did that your career
Yeah.
lead you here?
Yeah. So my first year at Deloitte, I was making 72,000, which I think Manhattan, that's like minimum wage, right? So I was living.
But that's
in-
how much they pay. We have
That's
a
how
lot
much
of
they
that kind of
pay.
we have a lot of friends in
exactly.
like that.
And
yeah.
you're there for. I mean, the money that is good money, but like it's you're there for the other things that come with working at that place, right?
Yeah.
And so I was funny story there is when I moved to New York, I actually had no idea how much money it took to get an apartment in this city, and so I came here with
Yeah.
like.
Oh.
Came here with like $1,000. I was like,
Oh my god!
It's like-
Won't even get you close.
Got
to
me
an apartment.
nothing.
I didn't know
Right.
what you were gonna say there.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, I showed up with like one suitcase and like $1,000 because and the funny story
Oh,
behind,
no.
do you know how I got that $1,000?
Yeah.
I
how'd you get that?
sold my car. At that point, the car that I was driving in college was only worth $1,000,
Oh,
and that's like I
wow.
had it like cash. And so like I show up, and I go to Street Easy,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, oh, like $5K, because you've got like
Yeah.
first last month's rent, security deposit, broker's fee,
Mhm.
right? All the stuff you guys know so much about.
Yeah.
And so I ended up on Airbnb, and I found a woman in Flushing, Queens, that was renting out her attic for
Oh, wow.
$900 a month.
Her attic.
No broker's fee, right? So I was like, okay, sign me up. And so that's what I was
Wow.
doing for the first couple months I was in the city. But again, like I
That's
was
incredible.
but I was in consulting, right? And so I was
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
attic for 2 days a week, and every other day, Monday through Friday, I was out in some other city.
Oh
right?
my god.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretend-
that's a great point.
Pretending to be
yeah.
a professional, right?
Oh,
so
shit.
yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, that's such a great point. So, and that was all paid for by the company. So
all
you're
paid for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my
so I didn't even
God.
spend
Sounds too
my
bad.
own money really most of the week, right? Because
Yeah.
all your meals are paid for, the hotel, and everything like that.
Yeah. That adds up.
It does add up, exactly. But so long story short, my first year at that job, I was making 72K. Got a raise to I think 84, and then I got another raise to like 90 in the next year, and the next year I made 100, and then now at the startup I'm still making that same base, but at no point did I really get like a meaningful like bonus, or obviously there's no equity at a consulting firm. So
Yeah.
definitely still moving up, but yeah, that's the the progression.
So it sounds like there's a steady ladder there that everyone knows about. You just put in the time, and you're just
100%.
eventually gonna. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I
over there?
mean, consulting firms, and I think a lot of companies are built this way, but consulting firms really enforce like the pyramid. And so like as long as you stay there and you like last and you can do the work, as you were saying, like you will make it. But it very much is like they say it's a culture of like up or out, right? So either go to the next level or you can't make it and you're politely asked to leave, right?
Wow.
There's nobody,
Interesting.
there are no 10-year analysts like at a consulting firm. You know what I mean?
You like
Yeah.
have to go up.
Yeah, if you
or-
don't make that jump in the first 2 to 3 years, like it didn't work out. You know?
Wow.
I didn't hear
Yeah.
about that. That's kinda
Yeah,
funny.
it's up or out.
It's kind of
yeah.
cutthroat.
It is cut.
100%.
We put in. My uncle has been working there for like 30 years, and he's pretty. It was, I guess, uncle-in-law. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He's not Filipino.
That's
So
fair.
not uncle by blood.
Yeah, but
I
he's
gotta-
been working his way
Yeah.
like 30 years. He loves the Filipinos. The Filipino culture.
I appreciate you clarifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I remember during our orientation, because Deloitte has this big farm in Texas called the Deloitte University, and this
Oh,
big
yeah, I heard
partner
about that.
got
Oh,
up
really?
on stage. Yeah.
I didn't know.
And so it's like they feed you barbecue and you just hang out, right? Drink
Yeah.
with people that should be working. And then this guy got up on stage and he looked at us and said, 90% of the analysts in this room will not make it to partner.
Oh,
Wow. They
That's
say that in like
insane.
engineering. I went to engineering school,
yeah.
like look left, look right. Only one of you is going to be here.
Oh my God, what?
I didn't know delay was like that. Cut
Oh yeah,
yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's like
They
that.
said that at
Yeah.
school about engineering. Oh my
In
God, I
engineering
would
school.
freak
Oh, you were
out.
in college.
In
and they were like,
college, orientation, they say that.
If they said that
Only
to me,
33% graduate from engineering.
goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And they were right.
Were you mechanical?
I was electrical computer engineering.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the
Okay.
worst major ever.
Goodness.
It's a really hard major.
Sounds
I'm
horrible.
only taking like 25 because 25% of it's like coding,
Okay.
at least in my
Yeah.
school. So I'm only
Yeah.
taking 25% of what I learned.
Yeah.
Wow.
But college is good for it teaches you how to learn on your own. That's
Yeah.
what I would say because everyone's
Yeah.
learning on their own. At
Yeah,
the end of the day.
I don't regret college. I think for me, college was a change of pace. It was a break. It was a chance to be like really curious about the things I was interested in.
Yeah.
And then like I learned things that I'm using in my job today. But like the biggest thing I remember, I took a class in college called college and social life or something, and it really broke down to a sociology class, but it broke down the actual benefits of college, and so little of it is actually the discrete skills you get to use
I
in your
agree.
career.
Oh, so they were upfront about that in that class you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
so
that's
much of
awesome.
it is like the
Mhm.
socialization. I mean, how many of your current friends did you meet in college? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, how much of what you learned about the world in general is like from like what you met in college, right?
Perspectives and
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I was, when I was in high school, like honor student, class president, captain of the track team,
Class
prom-
president, let's go. Yeah, same
yeah,
here.
right? Like prom king, and you think like you're all like this big guy.
Were
and
you prom king?
I was, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I know, right? It's big.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Got a plaque.
I
yeah.
lost my best friend, so I wasn't. I was
What?
That's
fortunate
amazing.
enough.
But
yeah.
you were nominated.
Yeah, but lost to him.
That's a
You guys
win.
are
badly.
way cooler than
It's
me.
a win, my friend.
Cole's
Yeah,
slightly
okay.
better than me in every category. But
That's not true. But because the end of that story is, you go to college and like, oh, like you did all that stuff too, and you had a 4.0. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like it is what it is.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, it puts it into perspective.
Yeah, but it humbles you, right?
Mhm.
Before the world really humbles you.
Yeah.
So
I'm not surprised though, based on like your experience and what you mentioned of like how you got to this point in time. You're doing that at a really young age, which is really hard to do. And you mentioned like your family lifestyle at the time
Yeah.
too, and money and whatnot. But you're
Yeah.
still able to like, who taught you? Like, how were you this way to begin with? Like, what?
Yeah, like how'd
what
you
is
train
wrong
yourself?
with you? Is what you're basically asking
Yeah, how'd you
me.
train? Because you trained yourself at a young age, basically, is what you're
Yeah,
getting at.
I mean, at some point you just have to. I think you just have to decide what you want out of your life, right? And no one, I
Mhm.
guess, very few people in my life were telling me what I had to do, because again, I think like that in and of itself is a privilege, and you could say people may be coming from a different background, right? Where all you hear growing up is like, oh, you've got to become a lawyer, or you've got to work
Mhm.
in this hospital system, just like insert male figure, right, in your life,
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have that, right? Nobody was really telling me what to do, good, bad, or indifferent. And so a lot of it was informed by like legitimately like movies and TV shows. Like I was
Wow.
looking at like,
Really?
yeah, dude. It was like Don Draper, Harvey Specter,
Don Draper.
Harvey Specter is
literally-
like,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
I agree.
Marty
Oh my
Kahn,
God.
if there are any House of Lies fans out there, but it's like that's what I was looking at, and I was like, this is the life I want. And so what do I need to learn? What do I need to do? What do I need to go to school and study? Like, how do I get there?
You kind of give suits. I was thinking that prior to even talking to you.
I need
So
to get that
I'm glad
printed.
that you said
I
that.
love that. Yeah, it's one of my
You
favorite
could literally
shows.
reverse engineer, and that's what we're doing at
Yeah.
Eat My Assets. Hopefully, people don't have to reverse engineer; they could just see it straight up. But I love how you reverse
Yeah.
engineered everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, how else are you going to do something that just hasn't been done before? You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
You have to sort of reverse engineer it, and then again, like connect the dots for others. Like I would say, like in my content now, a big like my thesis, and really I think like my larger life philosophy is that you are best served to serve someone who's in like a previous position you were in, right?
Mhm.
And so like
that's
with-
an interesting take.
With all of the content I make, like with all the speeches I give, it's like I only make it for me, but I'm making it for like 19-year-old me and like 21-year-old me, like
Yeah.
that dumb idiot, that didn't know like anything, right?
That's
and had
true
to navigate,
though, because
right?
you know
Yeah.
the audience because you were that
I
audience.
was that audience, yeah. Like I was telling a friend the other day, like I've been in the chairs for every room I've spoken in, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so I can really put myself in that position and say like, how do I stand out as a speaker, right? How do I make this message like true, like to them, and not just go
Mhm.
up there and say, oh, as a consultant and in the tech industry, you got to do these things. And like I've heard those speakers, and it just makes me want to throw up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's
yeah.
funny that you mentioned that too, because even now, I'm like an interim manager right now, and being a manager is kind of the same concept of like you've done it before. That's why they think you could be a manager and train them. But in reality, not everyone's a good manager. And the same in your case, not everyone can do what you're doing because not everyone's going to be a good like content creator, even though they've had that, or a teacher. Sorry, even though they've had that experience.
I think I mean the other thing that I would say related to that is like you have to know like what game you're trying to play. And because it's like there are things that I can't do, you know what I mean, but it's like I think at this point now especially like I think I'm getting to a point where like I'm quite specialized. Like I only want to do certain things that I know like I've got some like base skill set there, and then everything else is just like hustle and just like creativity and being open to new experiences. But like I put succinctly, like I tell people like you have to just play unfair, you know, like what are your unfair advantages? I mean the 3 Canon cameras that I'm looking at right now, like that for y'all is an unfair advantage. I've got 1 camera and a cell phone, you know what I mean? And so like if I wanted to make a financial podcast, tomorrow and compete with Eat My Assets, right? If I was witty enough, I'd come up with another play on words with finances and ass, but I can't do it, so I'm not going to do it. But like, if I wanted to do that, it would be worse because I would have less angles, This is
21-year-old me coming up with it, so that's why it made it easier.
No, I love that name. Never change that name.
To go about it.
Did you do the logo as well?
That was one of my really good friends, actually, Jeff. And I just told him, hey, here's a name.
Yeah.
Play around with it, see what can happen. And that's what he came up with. And I'm like, I love it.
Jeff has a lot of experience drawing ass. That's what I'll say. So
he's a cool creative. He's like a DJ. He's like he works as a marketing designer in a fucking bank.
That's amazing.
Insane.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he does like everything he does on the side. So that's
wow.
Something interesting there. But even so, like right now with your finances and how you manage them, and just got to ask this, like, how do you manage your finances now? Like, are you are you investing right now, and into what? Like, how's your savings work? Like, do you like to have different tiers, slush funds? Like, just curious about it.
Great question. Well. So the preface for all this is I'll say that now, like ever since I've been married, like me and my wife like have completely combined finances, and so I would say like,
I forgot. So is it joint?
Everything's joint.
Oh my god.
I'm a big believer in that.
Can we start by explaining that? How does that work? Because I actually have no idea. Honestly.
It's actually a lot simpler than you realize, because the thing is like I from the day we got married, like we never. Like I no longer have individual finances, right? I mean, obviously the stuff I make on the side as a creator is like different, and she has a nonprofit, and so that's separate. But like in terms of like the money we make, like the W-2 income, I would say. So actually the really cool thing to say is that at the end of last year, me and my wife sat down on our floor and we had a big piece of poster board, and we essentially made a map of every single account that we had money in. Wow. So like all of our retirement accounts, all of the crypto wallets I've set up, like every like checking, saving, Vanguard, like everything, right? Wow. And then we made a plan and said, how do we make this as simple as possible, but still as like performant and like good as possible, right? And so now we're in probably a year-long sprint of like consolidating our accounts and like making sure like like now like all of our direct deposits go into like mainly like one account, right? Gotcha. And so it's just stuff like that, but it's honestly it's very similar to like what you would do like with a consulting project. You got to do that discovery, right? Like you make like a big map of like this is what all is going on, and then you just make decisions on like, hey, like we don't need like seeing that we had I think in total like I think we have like 14 credit cards. It goes something like stupid, Wow. And like not all of those are active, but like most of them should be inactive. And so now we have 1 credit card that I would say like 90% of our spending goes on, because I'm a consultant, so I'm like a points whore, right? Like that's just like it just comes with the territory, right? Yeah. It's like I need points, and so like I do that. But like it's our checking is consolidated, our savings are consolidated. We're saving about probably $1,500 a month right now. Again, nice. It's across 2 people, right? Wow. I wish that number were higher, but we've got some consumer debt, right? We had a great wedding, we had an even better honeymoon, right? I've got some student loans, so. But yeah,
I have a million questions for you, and
please, dig in.
It's crazy because like we don't really know many people that are married, and
in this show too, everyone we've interviewed, there's been people here with like fiancés and whatnot, but not married yet. Like,
ooh,
first?
Yeah.
Colin's the very first.
And
like
that.
2 immediate questions here.
Sure.
1, do you all have a set budget for each other, and if you go over it, it's kind of like a slap on the wrist to each other? And then let's start with that actually, because second question's
so we have a budget. We use Rocket Money, and so it tracks like everything, and it's hooked up to everything, right? And so every week I just did this before I came over here because I needed to know all these things. But like we do a weekly financial like roundup. And so we say, okay, like, you know, we're about halfway through April. We said we would spend $1,600 like eating out in total throughout the month. Are we like halfway through that goal, right?
It's the project manager and you come in.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And so we run it like a project. And so I wouldn't say, you know, because again, like we don't have like Kaylee's money and Colin's money. It's just like our money, right? Yeah. And so when it comes to like personal care, right? Like I get my haircut, you know, like twice a month, right? But you know, Kaylee's got her hair appointments and she gets her nails done, right? And so all that though comes out of the same bucket. And so it's not on a monthly basis about like, oh, did Kaylee spend as much as Colin on, you know, this stuff? Because that's just not going to be true, right? Yeah. But I would say I eat out more than her, right? Because she's, you know, she's home earlier than me and she likes to cook, but I just like to grab whatever's near me. Usually Chick-fil-A.
On the Upper West Side, that's where my girlfriend lives too.
So yeah, so we have a budget, and I would say like every week the two of us sit down and we just like go through it and say like how are we tracking and like how are our goals and you know all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool. Is there any tax? So how does the tax benefits work for married? Because everyone tells me about tax benefits, and I have no idea like what they mean by married couple tax benefits.
Yeah, I know very little about taxes. Yeah, I will say that I think we filed jointly this year for the first time, obviously. But again, it'll be a little weird because we were married in September, and so we're only married for the last 3 months of last year. So it'll be interesting.
Oh yeah, that is weird.
I don't
pain in the ass.
Yeah, I don't really know. But if I don't get audited this year when I submit my return, I'll come back and then we can talk
exactly.
about it.
We can talk about that. Yeah, we'll see.
Exactly. I'll Zoom you from jail. Whichever works.
The other interesting thing that you mentioned too is like the credit cards and obviously being a consultant, like racking up the points. What credit card are you using and what led you to choose that credit card, especially as someone that travels a ton?
Yeah. So, I mean, to that point, you know, we both use the Chase Sapphire Reserve. It's got that, you know, it's got that annual fee of like $550 or $640 or something, but like we think it's really really worth it. Because
and both of you for the $550 or is it each
exactly so per person it's $2 whatever per year, you know what I mean? And so like it really isn't that bad.
That's why you get married.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And so like a lot of like our food costs have gone way down, right? But like that's like the one credit card we use because like you get a lot of points on it. There are certain categories of spending, like I think whenever we eat out at like DoorDash, like we get a little benefit. And there are some other benefits in there too, but
a ton of benefits in that card. Yeah,
by and large, just having two people earning 6-figure plus incomes, like putting all of their consumption on that card, like the amount of points we generate on a monthly basis is like sick.
That's awesome.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So we on our honeymoon, we both kind of zeroed out our points to go overseas. And so we actually flew in the Singapore suites like class. And so this is something where you have like we got 2 suites that were right next to each other.
It's one of the best airlines, by the way, for everyone else.
Best airlines, exactly. And so like the service was impeccable. We had like a full-size bed on this plane.
Oh my god!
They were serving us like Dom champagne and like caviar, and like it was like we had a private bathroom.
I gotta get married.
there was like a shower on this plane. Like they gave us PJs. Like it was crazy, and we paid taxes. So I think we paid like $30.
Is that the airline that was kind of in Crazy Rich Asians?
I would guess so because they went to Singapore for Crazy Rich Asians, so it probably was. Maybe so.
They had a bed in there, I remember.
Yeah, probably so.
Same ordeal.
Yeah,
damn,
so
that's awesome.
It was really really cool. But like that's the thing where I will say we're not super big on travel. It's not where a lot of our money goes. But when we go, we want to be able to like make it like really really work. Yeah. And so like, you know, the next trip we're planning right now is to go to Greece next year. And so like, when that happens, like again, like airfare is 100% going to be covered, right? Like I still have a couple free night awards for my consulting days. And so we'll use those in the hotels. So.
Yeah. Still, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. Still. So holding on to that status for your life, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's like, again, just using everything at your disposal to make the best possible outcome.
You going to Yacht Week Greece?
No, not me, but no. So it's so funny you say that because one of my best friends from college, now he's doing his MBA at Harvard. And so
is he doing Yacht Week? Because
he did go to Yacht Week. Yeah.
Did he go last year? We did.
Really?
We were in Croatia last year.
Were you really? Okay, yes.
There's a specific week though for the MBAs. I'm pretty sure where all the MBAs go to Yacht Week. So that's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
I know
because Wall Street Journal wrote that article like a couple weeks later.
That's what I was. That's what I was reading about.
And they were literally interviewing some of his like classmates at Harvard. But yeah, he was 100% there. So y'all were probably there at like the exact same time.
Well, that's
my god.
It's fun. I mean, it's really fun. It's
when is Yacht Week?
June to August.
Yeah, there you can go. Like there's different weeks to choose from. Okay. So we went like June 8th or something last year.
It's exactly how it sounds. You're all in yachts.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sailing like 10 miles an hour.
It's like partying every stop. Adrenaline, 4 hours of sleep.
Y'all are really selling me on Yacht Week.
It was great.
It's funny how here you talk about travel too, because in New York City it's like so go here, and even I struggle sometimes when I schedule something traveling. It's not really super scheduled. It's like, all right, we're just gonna go here.
Okay.
But that's just the life of New York. You're just like always in that kind of mindset. I think how it works there is if you're living together for 3 years in Canada, you're a situationship. Like it's you're considered married.
Okay.
And get all the married benefits, which I have no idea about what we're talking about.
Wait, in Canada?
In Canada, apparently, if you live with each other for that long, then they consider you. So they're not officially married, but they're considered married under the law of Canada.
That's like a real thing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Under the law of Canada.
Under the law.
If you're Canadian, please let me know.
If this is wrong,
I'm a Filipino living in America, so I'm just trying to figure out how this place works.
It's like squatters' rights for.
Oh my god, actually.
That's
amazing.
I have no idea, but the benefits that they get in Canada, I'm curious the benefits your wife gets from you being an influencer. And
the benefits that my wife gets from me. She would probably it would probably take a minute for her to come up with some. I think for her, like I'm definitely on the better side of that exchange. It's been, really nice for me to have these experiences like today, and like, some of the brands I've been able to work with and just some of the things I've been able to do. I 100%, and this is not like, rah marriage, but like I 100% would not be able to do it at the level I'm doing it if I did not have her sort of supporting me, because she does handle like a lot of the parts of life that I am not so great at. Maintaining the house, like keeping up with like friends and like family, right? Because it's a lot. I'm getting 20 DMs a day and like all these emails and notifications and comments and stuff I have to sort of keep on top of. I'm so glad she is in my life, because she makes being an influencer much easier. But I would say every so often, she if we used to do a couple of these restaurant tours, right? And so like they would invite us out and get a free meal, and so you're getting a $200 dining experience.
Free meal. Is that from the brand?
From the restaurant. And so we would I was doing this thing where I just had an idea, like what if I did this, right? And so I just DM'd like 50 restaurants in New York City, and like 3 got back to me. And so
nice.
And so like that we just had a couple of these meals set up just in exchange for content.
Wait, should we do that?
Yeah. Yes.
Welcome to Eat My Assets now, where Peter
I want
Peter
Olipop so badly.
Yeah.
I'm manifesting Olipop.
Olipop could be cool.
Eat is in the name. Like
that's really smart. You did that.
Eat is in the name.
Eat is in the name. Eat. Yeah. You have to give another.
You should host an episode of this podcast in like a restaurant. Like,
oh my god!
I would love to get a restaurant owner in
like
here.
So Brooklyn. Yeah, or get a restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about.
We could get the Aces guy.
It might be scary. Oh, Steve would definitely come here. Aces Pizza, shout out. I don't know if you had Aces Pizza downstairs before.
Is it just downstairs?
Yeah,
I know what I'm getting.
They're in Infatuation.
It's really good.
Infatuation's a problem.
Yeah.
Wait, I actually had a quick question. So how many hours a week does this like side gig take from? Question. And then how much hours do you work for your normal job? Like, is it 9 to 5?
Yeah. So the W-2, the normal job is anywhere probably from 50 to 60. It's a Series A, so it's definitely it takes some effort. And then it's client service, right? So they're calling and emailing all times of the day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The content stuff is probably another 10 to 15 on top of that. My Sundays are pretty much like dedicated to content, and so on Sunday I'll wake up, I'll like work out, and then I'll sort of chill. But then like after like from 12 p.m. noon till like 8 or 9, like it's like all content. So
nice.
Yeah. And I do a lot of my engagement on Sunday too, because a lot of the times people, if you can imagine giving career advice, people send me DMs all the time. I'm like, give me advice on my extremely specific situation, right? And here's all this context, right? And so I try to get to those. I'm pretty bad at it, but yeah, I try to do that on Sunday too. So,
that's why I stopped drinking as heavy on Saturdays, because I wanted at least one day on a Sunday.
Yeah.
to actually work on myself fully for the entire day, you know,
100%.
instead of like, oh, I'm gonna use the weekdays to work like 12-hour
Yeah.
days.
Yeah,
It's not that healthy. It's not that healthy.
It's too much, and I always tell people like you don't have to create time to create content. Like most of my videos now are filmed on my way into work, right?
I see
so
that
I
you're like
Yeah.
saving time doing, but how do you know
Yeah.
what to think? Like, how do you know what you're gonna post for
Yeah,
that
do
day?
you prep
Before?
beforehand?
It's
or-
hell no. Yeah, like it's a
You
it's,
just speak
it's
freely.
a beautiful
That's all.
it's a beautiful
Hey, guys.
flywheel. Yeah, what's up? How's it going?
I kind of love that.
If I saw you in the
Networking.
street, I'd be like, yo,
Dude,
what's
if
good?
you
Yeah.
if you were walking on West 22nd Street at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, you will see me walking to work with the phone in my face.
I love
like
that.
no
That's
bullshit.
awesome.
I love that.
And I don't have to prep because now like it's this beautiful flywheel effect where the engagement on my videos provides me with the context to make the next video.
Oh, because you're answering a question.
I'm answering questions.
Yeah.
And so like I made, last week I said, if you have an internship coming up, set up some Google alerts about like industry stuff. So you're like in the know,
Mhm.
right? Somebody said, I don't know how to do that. Okay, next video. Here's how to set up a Google alert, right?
Wow, yeah.
So, in the next
Yeah.
video, how do I use this information on my internship? Okay, sure, and so
Yeah.
now it's like I haven't come up with a content idea in years.
Oh,
know,
that's
like, it's
amazing.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like my audience, and that's another way of like I'm making the videos for them, right?
Mhm.
And so it's
Yeah.
like I can come up, and that's why people may ask, I get people reached out to like, are you leveraging AI tools and all that stuff? I'm like hell no. I don't need ChatGPT and Sam Altman to tell me like what I should be making for my audience. Like I don't
Yeah.
need that. I'm listening to them in my comments, in my DMs, and saying, okay, this is something that's happening, and I need to be addressing this in
Like
the video.
keeping it
I'm
organic.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny
Yeah.
you mentioned that because it is. If you're not a content creator, it is a good question, right?
Yeah.
And because some content creators too are still trying to like establish their brand. They're kind of you in the early
Right.
phases of trying to test out like what
100%.
So, but yeah, in reality, it's like I never look at ChatGPT. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, what kind of
Yeah.
You've got to
What you're showing me
become
about.
empathetic around who you're making this for.
Mhm.
You have to really put yourself in their shoes and think about your user personas and your archetypes, right? And all these marketing terms, but like that's like real because like that's what people are actually going to react to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So-
I'm curious since we're on this topic already,
Yeah.
like what would be your top three? What's typically your top three career advice for like all the people that you speak to, the youngins?
Number one is you got to plan fair. You have to like do like a deep dive on yourself and understand like what are your unique advantages in the marketplace. And I really do believe that every single human being on earth in some way, shape, or form has an advantage at their disposal that they could use to better their position in corporate life. Number two, I would say like especially if you were young, the soft skills are the hard skills because when you're
Mhm.
young, like you haven't done anything yet and you can't say, look at my advanced degree or like look at my big achievement, right?
Seriously, yeah.
And so like get the small things right, like show up on time,
Mhm.
look good, which I would say is my third point too, but it's like be generally like a decent person to work with and then just like commit to like just learning the thing and then you'll get the achievements over time.
Mm-hmm.
And then three is like, I think I say looks do matter, right? And the corollary to that is like, when I'm at work, I'm not myself, I'm better. And so like you should show up to work, again, especially if you're young with the confidence of someone who's already won, right? And so
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
if you have the success that you want to have at 40 or 50 or whatever, like how would you show up? How would you dress? How would you speak to people? I would say those are like the three like core pillars. And those are the three things that people get pissed at me about the most, which is my signal that they're the right things to be talking about, It's
Yeah.
like you want to, and you know this when you're looking for clips or whatever, like you want to choose something that people will fall on either side of the fence on, right?
Yeah.
And I'm okay to sit there and say, this is what I believe, and if you disagree, fine,
Yeah.
whatever.
And
Yeah.
based on the three things you said, I could actually agree with you that even if you took those three things, you could go really far because at the end of the day, in a job and getting promotions, it's not always about who's the best worker, smartest, and hardest. Sometimes it's just about your brand.
Yeah.
No, I'd say 50, not sometimes. Like 50% of it's like, do people actually like you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And do you appear to be doing more than you actually are?
And past a certain point, I mean, your hard skills are only going to be like so good. Like you can
Mhm.
only learn so much Java. You can only be so good at making like an Excel model, right? A DCF or
Yeah.
something.
Mhm.
And so it's like everything past that is like, do I like working with this person?
It's your personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was recruiting for Deloitte, one of the things we would always have in the back of our head is something that we call like the airport test. And it's like,
Mhm.
if you're going to be traveling around the country with this person, you get delayed on a flight, which happens like this, like it actually happens. It's like, if I'm in an airport lounge with you for 3 hours more than I thought I would be,
Yeah.
are you going to be decent to be around, or am
like,
I
am I gonna want to
like,
die?
or am I gonna go to Hertz and say I need something? Like I need give me a car. Like I'm just gonna drive. Like you need to be like a decent person to work with.
Yeah.
That makes a ton of sense. No, I appreciate that, and I think it's important because even when we look at our metrics, like a lot of the people that listen to Eat My Assets, they're all 18 to 27.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a typical. Well, there's like 18 to 24, and then
same.
But they're
same
all
for
like
me.
18, 24 around there. Yeah, but I don't know did we ask this earlier about the investing? Because I know we talked about savings a little bit.
We didn't
not
get
to a
into
great
it yet,
extent. Yeah. I'm happy to. So
I would love to hear.
Yeah, in terms of investing now, I would say it's quite boring. We've got just some target date funds, some S&P 500, some index stuff. The key for me is like longevity and like automation. Like I don't want to think about it a lot because especially now, like I have so much more compelling things to do with my time, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, you want to think about the future. So that's what most of it is. Not to say that I'm some, savant. In 2020, I was addicted to NFT trading.
No way. Were you really?
We were on the same boat.
Addicted. Yes.
Yeah, at the same time too.
Yeah, like Polygon, ETH, Solana. Like I would stay up until 2 a.m. 5 nights a week.
With his brother and you, honestly.
And it was trading because again, like there's no fucking closing bell. You know what I mean? Like, you can trade
people
this,
are online
this shit
all the time.
day. Yeah.
You wake up and join Discord, and people are like, "Good morning" at 4 a.m.
GM.
Yeah,
Exactly.
GM.
Yeah.
You're gonna miss out.
You're gonna miss
plain
out.
and simple.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're not up.
So I was in Discords and Telegrams and flipping these pixels, for however much I could get, but. Probably made about 10,000 doing that, but subsequently, lost probably most of it, or the value has gone down. I'll say.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's realized losses and unrealized losses.
Which JPEG was the first one you flipped? If you remember,
the first flip was also probably my most successful one, which is a great signal to get out. It was a metaverse project. It's called Portals. It's on Solana.
Portals.
No,
Solana. I wasn't big on. I was on ETH.
Well, they're these little digital apartments.
Oh wow.
I bought it for $100, and by the end of the day, it was $1,000.
That sounds better.
And I was just like, dude, fuck this. Like I got it. You know what I mean? And so I felt so good, and so I sold it for probably like $1,500. Yeah. And they went on at the peak. One of these things that again the mint price was $100. They were selling for $25,000.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So even a 10x return, I'm still a loser. You
and
know
Solana
what I mean?
too. Damn. That's crazy. I knew Solana was like still.
Yeah, it's got some
pumping.
Big projects.
Yeah,
I think we don't have to make this a crypto podcast, but I liked it because of the low fees and just the, they said I don't want. I wanted to have a Web3 conversation without mentioning the word community, but I can't. So
I know.
The community on Solana was just better for me.
Yeah,
and just a bit more like accessible. So
yeah, I get it too. Because my brother actually quit his full-time job. He used to work at Verizon.
Okay.
Sales engineer, whole deal. Now he's CEO of they've just got funding actually for their company in Web3. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And all start from trading NFTs and whatnot.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because there's some 99% of it's bullshit, like what my brother's doing and the others. Like there is still the small percentage from something like this that is actually very valuable.
Yeah.
And we'll have something like long term.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I do think a lot of stuff going on in the ecosystem is, again, like, I think a lot of it is like a solution looking for a problem, right? But it's like, I do think the fundamental technology is something that shouldn't be ignored. But to think very shortly, I mean, like there were, it was fun learning how to tell whether something would like splash or not, and just like to take a bet, right?
Yeah.
Like how can 100 become 2, right? Like that's like, that's something that I was constantly thinking about. And, one of the questions, in preparing for this, like what is my like financial fetish, right? I love that question, and it's one. Was that yours? Okay, yeah, I love it. It's stuff like that because like now like I'm paying for Midjourney. I have ChatGPT Plus, and like I'm trying to learn just like what AI is, right? Because again, even in the immediate short term, like I don't need to flip anymore. Like I'm making a sustainable like business and like a line of business deals right through.
You're not like day trading. Like,
like I'm doing like
content.
The content stuff I do is like sustainable, so I'm not looking for anything super short term, but I just want to be in the know so that when someone talks about a large language model, like I know what that is. When someone talks about a nerf, like I know what that is. And so I'm always trying to just keep myself like one step ahead.
It's kind of like
really
why we read books too. It's like being able to know a little
100%.
bit about
books,
and still being an expert. Yeah. Now that makes a ton of sense. Like investing wise too, it's the same for me. If it's like if I'm not gonna be NFTs, that was time consuming, but nowadays too I'm the same. It's just like what you mentioned, index funds, like ETFs, like
it's like and again I'm reading, right, like I'm just finishing up The Psychology of Money, you know. I read the book, Ramit Sethi's book, How to Teach You to Be Rich, right, a couple months ago, and it's like I'm learning that like you just got to take a longer term view, right? And then again, like I'm like this is a lesson I'm learning at 27, right? There's a reason I'm career advice and not personal finance, right? Because like there's a lot of the stuff that I literally just have to learn, you know. So it's just accepting your ignorance and just, you know, diving in.
I love that.
Yeah, and even though it's just career advice, on the financial side, it would be funny to know like what you think was your worst investment you've ever made up until this point in time.
I mean, one of my worst financial decisions was reading Wall Street Bets in 2020.
Oh, wow.
GameStop? You talking about GameStop?
Yeah, GameStop, AMC, and all that stuff. So just buying into all that ridiculous stuff.
So many people.
Actually, you're right. We've heard that from a couple people already.
Did you lose money off of that, is what you're saying?
I mean, come on.
Some people made it.
We should just get all of them together to talk about this.
Like, which part of the graph were you at?
Yeah, please. Yeah,
were you up here?
It's so low. It's below the chart. Like the line no longer goes underneath that.
Oh, damn.
But no, the worst investment I've made. I don't know if I've made a lot of like really big and really bad investments. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've made a lot of bad financial choices, but they are $20 to $200 choices.
So that's like a cumulative.
Yeah. Like when I moved to New York, like I was spending $400 a week eating out.
Oh my God.
Like only. And what makes it much, much worse is, you know, this was only on the weekends because I wasn't living in New York.
So, oh my God, you're right.
Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning, $400. Just just brunch, mimosas, chicken biscuits. You know, like
stacks up so quick.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was probably the biggest financial no.
So that like $1,600, $2,000, you think you were spending per month? That's because we hear everyone's usually spending around $2,000.
Yeah.
$1,500 to $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
On expenses outside of rent and whatnot when we talk to people.
Yeah,
so
it's that number. So right now, again, these are all of my personal finance numbers now are just shared, and so like eating out is probably like $1,600 for us, and then groceries is $500 to $600. Yeah,
that sounds about the same with me, honestly. Yeah, if I could do groceries and cook, that's great.
Yeah, but some things you need in the house, but other things, you know, we'll decide, and then again, like sometimes you get to eat for free. You know,
we're young, we're in New York City, we're having a good time.
Sometimes I'll do groceries and still order something because why not?
Why not? Exactly. Like if you want, and this is another point I wanted to make is like I refuse to let my emotional well-being be dictated by a number on a screen. And for me, it's like I don't need to log into an account and see a big number and say, "Ooh, I'm saving money today." You know what I mean? It's like, I want to save like binary, like yes, but it's like I want to live in New York City too.
Exactly.
I want to buy groceries and just decide to do DoorDash instead, and I want to DoorDash that food from across the street.
Exactly.
Because it's raining.
That's what I feel.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Or you live in a walk-up and you're lazy and don't want to do that.
Exactly.
Well, that's part of why that project management you do in the half month. Someone may think it's overkill, but how I view it is it gives you no financial anxiety at all. You're able. It's not like you're looking to find out like, hey, we can't spend this much. It's more like, hey, here's where we're at. We'll get a temperature check, and knowing, it's like what Kobe Bryant said. It's like from practice, he doesn't get nervous because practice is like.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know the exact quote, but basically he works so hard in practice. Then the real thing, it doesn't matter, and that's the same thing. It's like you get no anxiety from knowing.
Because you know. Yeah. And I think all the anxiety comes from like just keeping it in this black box and saying, oh, finances, right? But it's like, again, for most people, even, like the numbers aren't that big, and it's not like you don't have to be some expert to just figure out like how do you stay in the black like every month, right? Like that's not science, right? Like, it's just behavior.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to tell people too. It's like at the end of the day, that's why we say we're not financial advice, because you see a lot of like finance gurus just talk about in general, like, saving SP 500, this is how you can make 6 figures and retire and like all that stuff. But in reality, like,
you don't really know.
Are you just going to give up there's some sacrifice, like you mentioned, there's some sacrifices you're going to have to make in your 20s, especially in your 20s in New York City. And I don't regret any of
me either. Zero. I feel broke half the time, but I'm happy.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, because like I mean, again, like I'm from the South, and so most of my friends, like at this point, if they chose to stay down there, like they own property, right? They may have a family by now, right? They may have multiple vehicles that they have in their name, and so it's like I don't have any of that stuff, you know. But but
those aren't the assets we're eating.
Yeah.
Those aren't the assets I'm eating, right? But it's like they're the ones who are, you know, texting me and saying, "Oh my God, like you know, joined this really cool startup in New York City, right? Or you're doing this like cool thing with content or like speaking." And it's like those are the experiences that, to your point, that I want to have in my 20s. And I'll get to the house, I'll get to the car, right? Like whatever. But it's like I'm 27, like I want to build an asset really to really your point that I think we're making is I want to build an asset that only I can have.
Exactly.
Anybody can put a down payment on a house, right? But who's eat my assets, right? Who's Colin Rocker career advice,
that.
right? It's like you're building an asset that's truly one of one, and then you're getting to the commoditized stuff,
which is so great because you're living for now while you're sort of obviously there's a future state, but you're living for the now in that sense, which is incredible. But that leads me to like a great overall question. Overall, like with the brand that you have now and even the job you have, I'm curious what the long term looks like for you and what you're trying to build towards. So maybe touching on that long term a little bit.
Yeah. I would say that for the vast majority of my life, I've been like hyper focused on goal setting, you know, and I was the one where when I was in college, I did have a spreadsheet once I figured out directionally what I wanted to do. Every single semester was like planned out in terms of the clubs I was joining, literally like the friends I wanted to make. Like it was like very hyper detailed, right? But I would say now I'm much more focused on lifestyle because I've just met too many people at this point who are making more than double what I'm making, and like their lifestyles are just like terrible, right? And it's not anti-money, it's not anti-capitalism. Like I want my bag, right? Like I do want money, but it's like for me, and how me and my wife set goals is like we want to get to a point where if we fly anywhere, we want to be able for that to be a first class flight. You know, we want to be able to take an Uber and not feel guilty about it. We want to be able to eat out 3 to 4 nights a week and not feel bad about it, right? We want certain things for our children in the future, right? And so I think it's about the lifestyle and also building in the daily activities that will lead to the other thing. Because I guess on the speaking part, like a question I always get is like, you know, now that you've made it with content, what's like the next thing for you? And I always like that question always confuses me because I'm like all I do is make content, and all these opportunities have come from making content. And so who am I to say, okay, now one day I want to stop making content and go do this other thing? Like I'm going to make content, and if on Monday Eat My Assets reaches out, and then on Tuesday I get to go to Vegas, and then on Wednesday I'm in a restaurant for free, like cool. But like I'm just going to keep making content, right? And so it's like for me it's like what are the activities that I want to have going on in my lifestyle? And so you know, some of that, like I would love to be like some sort of like angel investor in the future. I would love to, you know, really get into like deep like coaching and actually serve people on like a very individual basis on their careers in a way that makes sense. But yeah, I think like I had a goal when I was 12 that I wanted to make 6 figures by 30 years old. You know, when I got there when I was 24, you know what I mean? And so it's like any number I put, like it feels arbitrary, and I don't want to have some number that again like causes me like stress and anxiety because like I just want more, right? But it's like if I say like, okay, I'm at this number now, I want to be at this number next year, I feel like that's just going to create too much like stress, and it's going to cause me to make short-term decisions that are moving me away from the lifestyle that I say I want to have in the future.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And hey, where you're at now, I'm sure you're it's gonna be cool to see where you're at like 4 or 5 years from now too, because of
likewise
the project outside the project plan, like the little things that you're doing on a day-to-day perspective, like that's going to be just like exponential growth over time. And I appreciate you hopping on the show, by the way. I know it's not easy. You get reached out to by someone called Eat My Assets to talk about your finances.
Love it.
All the way here in Brooklyn, but it's been awesome having you here. And how did it feel like being on this show, by the way, being able to talk about like finances like this?
It was so freeing. I really like it. I like the place that y'all are in this marketplace. I think this is much better than you coming up to me on the street with an iPhone in my face and saying, so how much do you make? What's that job like? How much is your bonus?
Yeah, it was too much of that.
So, you know, I appreciate the way y'all are going about this. And I think you're building something that, again, is like you're building a one-of-one asset, right? And I hope you eat all of it, you know?
Thanks.
I love all the innuendos. I got to get you. We'll get you some stickers on the way out.
Yeah, please.
And we got hats coming soon, so we'll send you a hat too.
Yeah.
But with that, Colin, appreciate you hopping on the show.
Yeah.
Hope it was a good time. And for everyone else tuning in, Thank you so much for joining. As far as following us on the socials, it's at eatmyassets.com. Except for YouTube, that's just straight up at eatmyassets. So that was dope that we were able to get that. But until then, if Ron, do you wanna kick us out of here?
We will see you next time. I never know what to say. I just should think of it in advance, and I never do. And I always sit here when he's doing the outro.